In what ways do you think AI offers opportunities for enhancing creativity among musicians?
This is something I'm really passionate about. It is not obvious what new ideas look like before you create them. And the first results of any technology are to mimic and copy what already exists. And that's what we're seeing now. Everybody trying to mimic a style, copy a canon. But this pastiche will soon give way to making completely new ideas in music. And I can imagine that going in many different ways. We've been testing it out in different ways, in concerts, through our AI sculptures. And I can imagine, for example, music that is not stationary. It seems if music has to exist in a digital world, it doesn't have to be exactly 3 minutes long, the size of a CD, which I don't know why we still stick with that. Maybe even it doesn't have to be sampled at 44.1 or 48 kilohertz, because maybe it can be sampled higher, lower. In the same way, we have access right now to musical ideas from any time in the world and at any point in the world. So these could also act as portals for quoting ideas and mixing ideas together from different time periods, different parts of the world, and doing it in totally novel ways. We are showing some examples of this already in our operas, where we have musicians react and respond to different genres and musical worlds, allowing you to collaborate with 1920s, or imagine if you were able to improvise with ideas and categories. That's just one. I think it's important to show such examples, because in talking about it, it's not clear what a new sound is, or what does it mean to mix country music and Indian classical music, and who gets to do it even.
But if you could explain to us in a little more, I would appreciate your explaining, how is that different from just exposing the musicians to, say, the Indian classical music or country Western, compared to, are you saying that the AI is going to be exposed to it and blend that in, or how does that apply here to the connection with AI?
Yeah, I think it's similar in many ways to exposing yourself to different identities, different styles, it is similar in those ways, but it's different because the way you can access that information now is through these models. So for example, one might make music that has key ideas and elements that I have expressed, and then based on the person that's listening to it, the ideas take different forms. For example, if I'm somebody that comes from, my ears are more used to listening to Indian classical music and a certain kind of rock music, maybe the same ideas from this album can be presented to me in a different way. And the musician releases the album, but it can be digested in many different ways. Just as like one form of what this might mean. I would also want to say, like, some of the other like positive ideas that I think of AI in music, because this is not clear how that's positive. This is just novel. Novel sounds are not necessarily going to be successful, but it allows for a musician to do something that they would have never been able to do before, like release their music, and it's different every time it's heard.
Oh, is that what you mean by like having a flexible format, length, and other? It would change each time.
That's just one way of imagining it, definitely. Yeah. One might even imagine an artist might have control over the way it changes. Perhaps the music that you listen to keeps degrading over time, and that's another way of an artist saying every time you listen to it, it's going to be different. But I think it does enable a bunch of novel ideas, because you can now suddenly get portals to different periods of time, different instances of time. And the way that it is different for like the AI, how the AI makes it different than just a human that is a scholar and exposes themselves to many pieces of music, is that we can now quote an idea without actually exactly copying it. Now, this might mean that you have to share your credit, share the revenue you make with the person whose original idea it was. But music often has this reinvention, right? Like hip hop has sampling, jazz has quotes all the time, quoting phrases, quoting licks, playing over the same standard, but interpreting it in different ways. So music is all about the human context around how you express those ideas. And sometimes you're quoting ideas. Now, when you quote an idea, maybe you need to pay someone for quoting their idea. But maybe now there might be ideas of quoting not just a fixed form of idea, but quoting the general style of the 20s, and quoting the musical timbres and textures of Gregorian chants. And so quoting is a very powerful and important idea in music. And I think AI might unlock some new ways of doing it. Of course, by making sure that authorship and credit is done the right way, which we talked about earlier. And that's like a big hurdle, I think. But but that's just one of the things. And I want to mention two other things that I think are like powerful new ideas. Another one I think, which I'm already seeing happen around the world, is a new form of fan fiction, a kind of fan and audience and artist interaction where audience members are generating like fan fiction. They want to make music in the style of their artists that they love. So making these like non-stationary types of music that release as an album, but also release as a AI model or as a toy or as a game that fans can engage in, share with each other the music that they make with the raw ingredients that the album or the artist has provided, might unlock completely new revenue streams for the artist, as well as new ways of fans and like the audience and artists to interact with.
That's a really interesting idea, definitely. So you see that this gives greater fluidity and flexibility to music than ever existed before? Is that what you believe?
I just think the scales are different now, and it has just made things accessible in a completely different scale. I mean, before there was streaming services, and I know that's also like a big leap when Napster happened and people didn't know how to react to that. That was like a big change in things, but it did allow people to listen to music from around the world. And now you can imagine AI will allow you to do the same things that you did before, but at a much larger scale, where you can go through hundreds and thousands of ideas in a weekend, do it across different scales, both time and context.